So, what is the worst creepypasta, you might ask? Well, it's this one, Dear Abby, apparently. Creepypasta.com gave it a 0.76 out of 10, and that's an average rating from 2,500 and, well, whatever number that is. 2.52k votes. Now, I don't know what you have to do to get less than 1 star on a 1 to 10 scale, but apparently this one got it. Of course, no offense to Kyle K-Man, Manjoni Smith, something like that. It'll be on the screen now. The guy that wrote this. We're just here to have a little fun, so sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy. And maybe you can help me figure out why this is like the most downvoted creepypasta on the website. Dear Abby, we've never met before, so this might seem a bit odd, but I feel this is necessary. My name's Jay for starters. I work at the checkout line at the grocery store up on 67th Street. You know, the one with the parking lot that's way too big for the store itself? Yeah, that one. This guy's kind of weird. I'm 24, fairly tall, and have a rather scraggly appearance. You probably wouldn't recognize me if I came up to talk to you. I don't have a very memorable face. Heh. I don't really know why I'm telling you all this, to be honest, but this isn't the point of me writing to you. I was working late at night yesterday. It was a very average day for the most part. Nothing too exciting happened, but you'd be surprised how interesting this job can get at times. I'd been reading some book that the guy working the counter at the shift before me had left. It was some really crappy murder book, chocked full of cliches. Incredibly boring if you ask me, but it's something to do, I guess. When you showed up, though, my whole night changed. I don't know exactly what it was about you that caught my attention at first, but as soon as I saw you, I got this weird feeling. An odd mix between excitement and terror, that's the best way I can describe it. I saw you walk into my line, and I quickly composed myself. I'd been slouching down in a chair for a while since I rarely ever get anybody in my line. It was only when you got closer that I realized what about you caught my attention. ... You were absolutely beautiful. Aw. You walked up and said hey, and handed me your cart. I could tell by the way you were talking and by the way you looked at me, you were very sleep deprived, though this wasn't surprising considering how late it was. After a second or two of awkward silence, I realized that you had greeted me, and I suddenly forced out a hi in response. I cursed myself out mentally for that one. I sat there for a second, trying to focus. What's your name? I asked. It's only later I realized how odd this must have seemed. What kind of grocery bag guy asks what somebody's name is? I'm glad I did, though. I remember you said your name was Abigail, but that you go by Abby for short. Abby. It seemed to fit so perfectly. The name seemed to roll off my tongue as I said it back to myself silently. It was like sweet honey. It just felt good as I said it. You seemed perplexed when I looked back at you, and I wondered if I'd done something to upset you. Shouldn't you be packing those? You said and pointed to your groceries. Suddenly, shocked and embarrassed, I looked up and apologized. I clumsily started shoving groceries into the bag as fast as I could. I couldn't believe myself. How stupid could I be? But when I looked up, I realized you were laughing. You shouldn't laugh at this guy. You're kind of cute, you said, and I tried to play it off cool, but I was obviously thrilled. A girl like this thought I was cute? You are too, I said as I hastily packed the rest of the groceries. As you walked out, you turned around as you reached the door and said, "Have a good night." Should we keep using the old lady voice? No. You said, "Have a good night." I'm guessing I look pretty stupid now, writing this all down. You probably still remember it. I mean, it did just happen yesterday. But I went home ecstatic that night, with all the confidence in the world. I feel like it's almost unreal writing it back here. Anyways, I just wanted to write you this letter, Abby, to tell you that I love you. Whoa. I don't know what it was that I felt that night. It was some weird mix-up of emotions. All I know was even in that small little transaction that we had, I felt as if there was something between us. Please write me back soon. Sincerely, Jay. Dear Abby, it's been a week since I sent my last letter, and I still haven't gotten a response, but that doesn't matter. How have you been? My life's just been normal, I guess. Get up, go to work, go to bed. I live in a really shitty apartment, but I guess that's what you get when you work at a grocery store. I've thought about you a lot lately, and I sometimes wonder if you still remember me. This Abby chick's probably tied up in his basement. I saw you again today at work. This time, it was a bit more of a reasonable hour, thankfully. I didn't want to bother you and wanted to see if you'd approach me on your own. You came to my line again, which made me absolutely thrilled. This time I was less nervous. I was going to act normal, no matter what you did or said, whatever. I wasn't going to let a girl like you slip through my fingers. As you walked up, you said something that was too quiet for me to make out, and waited at the end of the counter for me to finish packing your groceries. This obviously wasn't what I expected, but it wasn't all that bad. You didn't seem to feel anything at all, actually. I was expecting you to either come up and talk to me, or avoid me like the plague. But instead you just walked on, though, as if I were another stranger. This makes me wonder if you got my last letter. You should check your mailbox more often. There was one moment where I felt something, though. I looked over briefly to see what you were doing, and at the same time you seemed to look up at me to see how far along I was. Right then, our eyes locked. Only for a second or two, but in those 2 seconds I saw so much more in you than I had seen last time. I felt as if I had known you for years, like I knew all your intricate feelings and emotions. Did you feel anything like that with me? Shortly after I finished packing your bags, you paid and walked out. This was obviously a pretty normal process for me, considering I do it about 50 times a day.
That's what she said.
That's my joke. Damn it, Dwight.
But I had been determined since last night I wrote you that letter that the next time I saw you, I was going to get a lot more out of it. Well, I kind of screwed that up. I wasn't satisfied with it. I had to have more. There's a little room in the very back left corner of the grocery store designated for staff. In there, I knew they kept all the security footage from the day. All the staff are informed of all the cameras and their locations when they're hired. Luckily for me, there's one positioned right next to my counter. I waited until the store closed and everybody left, and then I went in. After flipping through a few of the TV screens, I found the one that was connected to the camera by my counter. I rewinded it until about when I remember you coming in. After a few minutes of scanning, I had found it. There you were. I paused on the best still shot I could find. I knew the camera would not do you justice, but it was the best I could have for now. Having a longer look at you, I realized how truly perfect you were. Every feature of your body, your face, your legs, your hair, your chest, it was all perfect. I rewinded the tape to when you first came to my line a few times. I couldn't help it. My eyes were glued to the screen. After a few minutes of consideration, I popped out the tape and shoved it into my pocket, and then I drove home. I knew I wasn't allowed to. I could very well be fired for taking such actions, but I couldn't help myself. I had to have you with me at all times, even if it means losing my job. Abby, I love you. I love everything about you. I think about you constantly now. Do you feel the same way about me, Abby? I just want us to be together forever. Right back soon. Yours truly, Jay. Okay, we're on the third letter, and I don't think he hasn't gotten a reply yet, so. It's a little desperate, but, we've all been there, right? right? No, I'm just kidding. Dear Abby, it's been 3 days and I still have not gotten a reply. Why don't you want to talk to me? I'm still unsure if you've gotten my last 2 letters. Please tell me if you have. So I got fired from my job, lol. They found the missing tape. I got a call from the store owner, my boss, at 6 a.m. on Monday and was told to come in immediately. They were having a mandatory all-staff meeting. When I got there, all the staff were gathered around a small table with the owner at the head of it. Once everybody arrived, he told us that apparently there was a minor robbery yesterday and they had about $200 worth of stuff taken from them. And the one tape that would have shown who the culprit was the one I had taken. Just my luck. He told us that nobody was going to be leaving the room until somebody confessed. After a few minutes, I finally gave in. He cracked pretty quick. I told him everything, about how I felt as if you and me had this special kind of connection. After explaining the whole story, the entire room was staring at me wide-eyed. Yeah. After I finished, I sat there in silence for several seconds. Suddenly, the store owner broke the tension and said, "Jay, you're fired. Get out of here now and don't come back." I did what I was told and I got out of there as fast as I could. That stupid prick. He's always treated me like shit. He's been on my case since I got the job. I swear he's just been waiting for me to do one little thing that he could justify firing me. And the one time I slip up, he finds out. Why didn't he understand, though? Doesn't he get that you and I are meant to be? Any rational man would have understood. Anyone put in my situation would have done that, right? I've been searching you up a lot lately. With no job, I have all the time in the world to spend learning about you. Do you know how much you can find out about somebody with just a first name and the town of residence? I found out that your last name's Merritt. What a beautiful name. Abby Merritt. I can't help but say it aloud whenever I think of you. I also found out that you're 24 and you only live about a mile away from me. I drove down to your apartment complex today. It looks very nice. Much nicer than where I live. I asked to see you multiple times, but I was told that you weren't there every time. I felt more and more discouraged every time I went, but I was determined to see you. Who's Jay asking that? Like, what? Does Abby have a doorman? I thought they were living in, like, a small town or something. Anyways, he goes on to say, after a few hours of asking, I decided to stay back in the parking lot for a while, waiting for you to come back. And after many hours of waiting, you did. Yeah, he's probably going too far now. It was late at night, around 10, I believe. I saw you pull up in your car and get out. I felt a sudden rush of warmth at seeing your face again. I mean, I know I have the security tape to look at, but it doesn't compare to seeing you in real life. I made sure to record it for later when I was at home, this time with a much higher quality camera. I wanted to capture as much detail as possible. I didn't know the next time I would see you, and the security tape was not going to be enough for me anymore. I asked the woman at the front desk multiple times what your room number was, but she refused to tell me. She thought I was some sort of a creep. You see, Abby, these people don't understand us. They don't understand what we feel for each other. I ended up waiting in the parking lot for a little while longer until somebody came out. After chatting with him for a little bit, he told me what your apartment number was, actually. He didn't want to talk at first, but I made him. You'd be surprised what you can make people tell you when you're holding a knife to their chest. It's a little extreme. Don't worry, I didn't hurt him too bad, but we can't have somebody interfering with us. Don't you agree, Abby? I'm sick of all these people trying to keep us apart. I ended up watching you from the parking lot for a little while longer. Once I found out your room number and how your rooms in this complex were organized, it wasn't hard to locate. You should be more careful about shutting your blinds, you know. I was easily able to watch you from the parking lot. I can't get you out of my head anymore, ever. All I do is watch that video I took of you over and over. Abby, I want to be with you forever. I want to wake up in the morning to see you in the bed next to me. I can't wait until the next time I see you. Love, Jay. Dear Abby, I have some really exciting news, Abby. I'm moving in with you. Aren't you excited? We can spend hours and hours and hours together. It'll be just perfect. Let me explain. My job paid me just enough so that I could make rent and pay for food every week. Because of this, I had little to no savings, nowhere near enough to last a very long time. When you take that money flow away, it doesn't take very long until you have nothing left. I was able to get by for a few days, but just today I got evicted. This could actually be better than I originally thought. I wouldn't be surprised if that guy that gave me your room number had been able to contact the police by now. This way they won't be able to find me, and we might be able to spend all the time in the world together. It's perfect, isn't it? I made sure to bring all my tapes and photos I've taken with me though, and my cameras, of course. You should really tell whoever manages your apartment complex to get better staff. I was able to easily get by security. I went up to your room and knocked on the door, but I got no answer, so I decided to get in by other means. After scanning the footage I took last night, I noticed that you have a small ventilation shaft in the corner of your room. Not really surprising, considering how hot it can get here in the summer. I figured there had to be some kind of a maintenance hatch or something that I could get in through. After a few minutes of looking around, I found a door at the end of your hall that seemed to be some kind of a staff room, and luckily there was a way into the vents there. Bro's going like full Metal Gear Solid here. I crawled through them until I got to your room. It was really cramped and hard to move around in, but I managed. When I got there though, I felt a rush of success. I figured since the lights were out and I couldn't see you, that you weren't home, but I'm patient. I scanned every part of your room, trying to memorize the intricate details. Your scent overwhelmed me as I sat there. I had caught it briefly during the 2 times I saw you at the store, but never this strong. It was mesmerizing. I couldn't quite place my finger on it, but it reminded me of something. It was almost like peaches. I sat there hunched over for a few hours, though I've taught myself to be extremely patient. I can sit completely motionless for hours at a time, not moving a muscle. No one was going to notice me. Then, you finally got home. I felt a wide smile form on my face the second I heard the door open. There you were, my love. Of course, you took no notice to my presence. The light in your room seemed to be angled perfectly so that you couldn't see anything in the vent after the first few inches. I tried to contain my excitement, but I started breathing very heavily. I tried to cover it up the best I could, but it was hard. You suddenly looked right at the vent, and I went completely silent. After a few seconds, though, you seemed to lose interest, and this made me smile. This was the perfect spot. I could tell I had startled you, though. All throughout the night, you were turning over and over as you slept to look at the vent. People seem to have a sense for when they're being watched. It can send them into a complete panic. Don't try to fake it, Abby. I can tell when somebody's awake. When someone's truly scared, sleep becomes impossible. Why are you so scared anyways? It's just me. Why would I scare you? You do love me, right? You know I love you. Anyways, I'm looking forward to spending every day with you now, Abby. Write me back if you can. Love, Jay. Dear Abby, I saw you wake up this morning. I didn't sleep a wink last night. You were too enthralling. I spent the whole night watching you. I couldn't help it. Anytime I tried to look away, my eyes seemed to be drawn back a few seconds later. You look even more amazing when you're sleeping, you know. You'd be surprised how much you can learn about a person's personality while watching them sleep. I was tempted to get out of the vent multiple times during the night, but I resisted the urge. I couldn't have you figuring out I'm here. Not yet, at least. You seem to spend a lot of time in your bathroom in the morning. I assume you were taking a shower or putting makeup on. Maybe she was pooping. Why would you do that, Abby? Anything you could do to change the way you naturally look would only cover up your true beauty. Why would you want to do that? Don't you want the whole world to see what I see in you? You left shortly after that for work, or at least that's what I'm assuming. After careful consideration, I decided to leave the vent. I slid my hand through one of the slits and felt around for the bolts. The surface of the vent was very smooth, which made them very easy to find. I grabbed onto one and twisted as hard as I could, and finally was able to pop it off. I did this with all the bolts and finally removed the grating. Why didn't he bring, a screwdriver? The first thing I did was go over to the bathroom. I quickly disposed of everything that I could find that you could use to mask your face. That stuff disgusts me. Jesus. This way, everyone will get to see how you truly are. I also found something else in there. Your hairbrush. I grabbed it and brought it up close to my face to examine it. It was a dull blue with a thick, rounded handle. But that wasn't what interested me. The hairs. That's what made me so interested. I took a good few minutes to pull every one of them I could find and line them up on your counter. I counted them. I'd gotten 59. This pleased me greatly, and I quickly scooped them up and put them in my pocket. I spent the rest of the day going through your stuff to learn more about you, your interests and things. I take it you're a big movie fan, Abby? I found your collection in the back of your closet. I have to say it's quite impressive. I found something else back there that made me mad. A picture of you with another man. It disgusted me just looking at him, holding you like he owned you. I'm the only one that can have you, Abby. No one else. At 8:30, I considered starting to get back into the vent, since that's usually when you get back from work. Then I had another idea. I looked at your bed. Your blankets hung low enough to the floor that you couldn't see underneath the bed unless they were lifted up. I first screwed the vent grating back on and then slowly slid under with a smile on my face and waited for you to get home. When you finally came in, you looked completely pale, and I noticed someone else had came in behind you. They were talking, oh no, they were talking to you about hearing noises coming from your room throughout the day. I mentally yelled at myself. I would need to be more careful from now on. Going under the bed had been a good idea though, since obviously your first thought was to check the vent. You thanked the person, and then they left. Finally, you and I were alone. I sat there in silence until you went to bed. It seemed to be an eternity before you did. I wanted to get a closer look at you tonight, and this was my chance. You got in bed and turned off the lights. I was cautious. I waited for a few hours to make sure you really were asleep, and when I was sure that you were, I slowly slid out from underneath your bed. And I saw you there, and you looked absolutely stunning. Every curve of your body was perfect, every little detail was beautiful. I was in awe just looking at you. I reached out my hand and I started to stroke your face. It was soft like silk. I felt myself starting to get, no word that I can't say on YouTube in this context. Your beauty was just overwhelming. I slowly reached down and started to pleasure myself. I tried to control myself out of worry of waking you up, but I couldn't help it. I felt pure ecstasy. Everything about you was perfect. Suddenly, you seemed to turn and started to wake up. Horrified, I quickly slid back under the bed as quietly as possible. A few seconds later, I saw that you got out of bed and looked around. I could sense your fear even without looking at you. You should feel calm with me around you, Abby. I'll protect you. No one will ever touch you but me. I'd kill someone for you, Abby. I made sure to pay attention today. You didn't bring in my letter from yesterday, or any mail at all. You must just not check your mail. I'm gonna change that today, though. I'm gonna leave this letter right on your desk tomorrow. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm making something special for you. Checking your closet after you read this. Yours forever, Jay. Ooh, she's gonna get a present. That's normally pretty sweet in any other context. Second last letter, let's go. Dear Abby, I spent more time working on the surprise while you were at work. You're really gonna love it, Abby. I've put a lot of work into it, you know. I spent a few hours today putting the finishing touches on it, and I think it's finally ready for you to see. You got home at 8:30 again, and saw the letter laying on the desk almost immediately. I started to smile as I saw you open it, waiting to see your reaction. It was really quite interesting watching your face. I could see all your different emotions and thoughts. You seemed to be confused at first, then shocked, then horrified. You started to shake violently, and I saw that you were starting to cry. Do you not like me, Abby? Why were you crying? Don't you love me? Don't you love me, Abby? Everything after that was a blur. You looked over to the closet, still sobbing. You seemed to be contemplating whether to open it or not. Instead, you ran past it and out the door. When you came back, you had all my letters in your hand and started going through them. Why would she come back? At some point, you seemed to break down and curl up on the floor, tears still rolling down your face. I can tell you were desperately trying to say something, anything, but you were paralyzed in fear. After about 10 minutes, I saw you look under the bed, in the vents, anywhere I could be. You see though, Abby, I'm smarter than that. I knew you would look in those places. I found a better place after I finished your surprise. You'll never find me in here. No one will. Isn't it great? I can watch you forever and ever in here, and there's nothing you or anyone else can do about it. You haven't found your surprise yet though, Abby, and I could tell you were still thinking about it. I saw you look over to the closet. I knew you wanted to open it, but at the same time you were nervous. What was it going to be? What would you find? This couldn't last forever though. You and I both knew that. I watched you slowly walk over to the closet, fumbling with the handle trying to get a firm grasp on it. Suddenly, you flung the doors open and saw it. It was a scrapbook of you and me. I saw you flipping through the pages. You seemed to be shocked. Do you not like it, Abby? I got pictures of you when you weren't looking. Pictures of you sleeping. Pictures of you at your computer. I'd scattered the hairs I'd collected throughout it, along with the pictures of couples together. Of course, with our faces on them, though. I got that picture with you and that other guy and put it at the very back, except I didn't leave it like it normally was. I scratched that little prick's face off. I hate him so much. If I knew who he was, I'd hunt him down and make him suffer. Don't you get it, Abby? No one can have you but me. Me and you are meant for each other. No one else. I watched you sob for 30 minutes and then get up and run out of your apartment. Shortly after, you came back with multiple policemen. This shocked me. Did you not like this surprise, Abby? Why would you bring these people into your room? They'll never find where I am, but if they did, it could ruin everything. All my work from the last few weeks would be for nothing. You wouldn't want that, right, Abby? I'm exhausted from today's work, and as much as I love you, I need sleep. Have a good night. I love you. Jay. Okay, last letter, let's go. Also, maybe let me know down below if you know why this is like the worst rated creepypasta of all time. Because, I don't know, I'm pretty stoked about it. I'm really curious about what's going to happen. It's more than I can say about a lot of creepypastas I've read. Maybe we're going to find out why it's so bad in this last letter. Yeah? Let's find out. Dear Abby, do you see what you've done? Do you see what you've done? I woke up at 8 a.m. to see you frantically packing your bags. I was confused at first, but then I understood. You were leaving me. You don't love me. How could you do this to me, Abby? You were the only thing I wanted in life. I had nothing else to live for, but when I first met you, I saw a shimmer of hope. I thought that I'd finally have a reason to wake up in the morning and go on with my shitty life. And you went and threw that all away. How could you do this to me, Abby? Why doesn't she, have cops in a room with her, while she's packing? Clearly there's a ton of letters from some deranged guy that's been living with her. Secretly living with her. It's like, bro, I would have a lot of people in my apartment helping me pack right now. If I was even going to grab my stuff. I don't know. A few seconds after you left your room, I got out of my hiding spot and followed you. I saw you throw your bags in the back of your car and then get in and start it. I wasn't going to let you get away though, Abby. I would never let that happen. I ran as fast as I could to your car and smashed out the window and dragged you out. Did you really think you could get away from me, Abby? I had to hit you over the head to knock you out. You were making too much noise. Someone else, someone who doesn't understand, could have seen and ruined everything. Well, I had a plan for if you reacted like this. I drove out to the storage unit at the edge of town. I'd reserved the slot the day I decided to move in with you. I drove up and unlocked it, and I grabbed you and carried you inside with me. It had only been a few minutes, so you were still unconscious. I made sure to check through your pockets to make sure you didn't have a phone with you. I sat you down at the very back of the small room, and then I got in and lowered the door. I called the owner of the storage unit and told him that I had visited my lot the other day and forgotten to lock it, and asked him if he wouldn't mind locking it up for me. Of course, he said yeah. I hung up and then I threw the phone on the ground and stomped on it to make sure it would never work again. Shortly later, I heard the owner come up and lock the door. About an hour later, I saw you start to get up. I first heard a very faint grunt, and then I saw your legs start to move. Shortly after, you were fully awake. When you saw my face, you started to scream, which then subsided to a whine and then a whimper. That's when you saw it. The one other thing in the room with us. My knife. It was obvious why it was there, and after a second or two of realization, you jumped and grabbed it. I looked you dead in the eye and said, "Abby, I love you." And then I felt the searing pain of a knife being driven into my side. Ouch. I felt it being pulled out and jabbed back in with great force. I could feel it go in each time like a fire burning a hole through my chest. I fell to the floor, laughing while coughing up blood. I saw you back away, trembling, and sit back down in the corner. And now, as I sit here in a puddle of my own blood writing this, I wonder how you'll go out. Are you going to use the knife or will you let starvation take you? Either way, we'll be together in death, Abby. Together from the day I saw you to the day we both died, just as I wanted it. And as you sit there crying, I can tell you've come to this realization. Abby, this is all I ever wanted, and for that I have to say thank you. Love, Jay. Well, that's the story. I definitely don't think that, he said oh, you've come to this realization that you're gonna die too. It's I'm pretty sure somebody's gonna come to their storage locker before then. As soon as she hears somebody else, she can just scream for help. Pretty sure some of them also have phone lines in there and stuff, but maybe it's an older one that doesn't. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. I just read it because I wanted to read the worst creepypasta on the Creepypasta website, which by rating is this one, so I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's review bombed. Maybe K-Man Kyle Mangione Smith did a no-no on the internet and now he got his story review bombed or something. But yeah, if you liked it, if you liked the story, I don't know, go find him on Twitter or something, tell him he did a good job. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, just wanted to read a shitty creepypasta for you. Other than that, that's all I had. So I hope you have a good night, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.